This is the 14-inch MacBook Pro. This is the 14-inch MacBook Pro. And this is the 14-inch MacBook Pro. Which 14-inch MacBook Pro should you get? Let's get into it. When Apple unveiled the 14-inch MacBook Pro at their October 18th event, I knew it was the one I wanted to get. Smaller form factor, less weight, and just easier to travel with than that big boy 16-inch MacBook Pro. To me, the 16-inch MacBook Pro, while nice, is more like a mobile desktop, and I'm not in the market for a mobile desktop. When the event was over, and after quickly understanding the 5 different SoCs, that's 3 M1 Pro versions and 2 M1 Max versions, I ordered the middle-of-the-road M1 Pro with 10 CPU cores and 16 GPU cores. After receiving that dreaded email from Apple, it took longer than expected to get my MacBook Pro, but now having used it for several days, I can say it is the best laptop I have ever used. The entire package, from how solid it feels, to the brightness of the screen, the best sound I've ever heard coming out of a laptop, the studio quality microphones, and the 1080p webcam are truly impressive, and the classic feel of the trackpad is like no other. Even the keyboard is very nice, and I really like how they anodized the keyboard area the same color. It just gives it a very clean and unified look. The laptop is so nice. Even the feel of opening and closing the lid is so fluid. It all just feels very premium. I will caution though, as it does come at a premium price. Now there are laptops that come close in certain aspects, but only Apple seems to offer this complete of a package that leaves you really wanting for nothing. But enough of the touchy-feely impressions and fawning over the design. What about the specs? The Liquid Retina XDR display is such a high-quality display. This mini LED display provides improved contrast and up to 1000 nits of brightness. This all in a very retro 16:10 aspect ratio at a pixel count that fits in between a 1440p and 4K panel. This is also a 10-bit panel for great colors. It supports HDR, and it has a variable refresh rate of up to 120 Hz. This is a special panel in a laptop. The 6-speaker sound system has 4 force-canceling woofers that help it deliver a deeper bass sound than you would ever expect out of a package this small. The webcam comes with a larger image sensor for better low-light performance and is now HD at 1080p resolution. The 3 studio-quality mics provided are very good for a laptop and actually surprised me. To really put them to the test, this video has portions recorded using this mic only. Let me know in the comments below if you think they are studio quality. Hello MagSafe, my old friend. It's good to see you once again. And the SD card reader is back along with the headphone jack and finally an HDMI port. However, it's only HDMI 2.0 and not 2.1, so it only supports 4K 60Hz and not 4K 120Hz. As for the performance, I had a pretty good idea of how the new M1 Pro chip was going to perform. If you saw my video after the event but before the reviews, my calculated estimate for the CPU performance in Cinebench R23 was 12,160 and my machine score is 12,336, so I was off by just 1.4%. For the GPU, I estimated the 16-core GPU performance would double that of the 8-core M1, and it comes close, but in Geekbench 5 Compute, for the metal score, I predicted it would be in the 40,000s. However, the score in my machine is just under 40,000. I'm not quite sure why, but it's something to look into. Getting back to why do I have 3 14-inch MacBook Pros, in my short time with this particular model, with the M1 Pro, it became very evident that the performance with the CPU is top-notch, as even the M1 Max only has the same 10 cores, but I began to wonder, what extra performance can be had when moving from the 16-core GPU in the M1 Pro to the 32-core GPU in the M1 Max? Also, the base-level M1 Pro with 8 CPU cores and 14 GPU cores seems like it could be a very option for many people, depending on whether or not you're not a super demanding user, and it could be that bump up over the M1 that many people would appreciate. So I was lucky enough to find both models available, as they seem to be getting more scarce, and they have long lead times for delivery of more than a month. There is so much I want to understand about these M1 Pro and M1 Max chips. For example, I want to understand the CPU performance and performance per watt differences with the M1 Pro and M1 Max, along with the CPUs from Intel and AMD. And oh, by the way, Intel just released their latest 12th gen CPUs in Alder Lake. And wow, did Apple walk away from some high performance chips for the desktop. In my videos, my calculated estimates of the performance were very close, but I also have similar questions on performance per watt. So I have some parts on order and they are slowly coming in. Get subscribed if you are interested in that. I also wanted to understand the GPU performance, performance scaling, and performance per watt, and understand how it compares to offerings from AMD and NVIDIA. While I don't think the new MacBook Pro should be used for gaming, I will take a look at the performance and scaling in some games. Finally, the thermal design Apple has chosen for the 14-inch MacBook Pro is not as robust and capable as the 16-inch MacBook Pro. What are the limitations, and will you suffer from thermal throttling on any of these chips in this smaller chassis? From my little time with this mid-level M1 Pro, I think you'll be surprised. Next time, we'll cover the CPU in detail. Thank you all so very much for watching. Stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.